6:30.
Let's do it.
So, Catherine, we're all ready to start.
Oh, good. Well, I'm here ready to listen.
Okay, let me ask you this. Would you like Jim to run the meeting?
Well, Jim, yeah, since I'm not there, I think that's Jim's job.
Well, actually, Christine speaking, Catherine. If you're participating by telephone, you can conduct your responsibilities as president.
Oh, no, Jim does it much better than me, and he'll get out much sooner.
Well, there's nothing prohibiting that, so we can have the president pro tem conduct the meeting.
Okay. So, call to order, February 6th, 2020, meeting of the Montara Water and Sanitary District, starting at 7:35. Roll call, please.
Director Boyd,
Here.
Director Decker,
Here.
Director Slater-Carter,
Present?
Director Harvey,
Here.
Director Loman.
Here.
Okay, there's no, I have, do you have a statement, Catherine?
No.
Okay, I have no statement. Oral comments for, any comments on items other than those on the agenda? And we do have some statements here. The first one is from Greg Diguez. Greg.
Yeah, Greg Diziguez, Montara. I wanted to let you know that I had written Jim Egermeyer, the Director of Sustainability, Office of Sustainability in San Mateo County, with a series of concerns about sustainability for the County of San Mateo. Trash, water, you name it. And about a week after I wrote him, well, he acknowledged it right away because I'd met with him in the Climate Ready Task Force. And then about a week later, I got an extremely long and well-considered reply pointing me to all the other agencies who are supposed to be doing the management of sustainability in the county. Now, I have not replied, and I'm going to be taking my time to do this thoughtfully after I check everything out. The reason I'm bringing it up for the board is that, and I had mentioned this at the hearing of the Planning Commission, and Catherine mentioned it also, they're asking us to accept more population, but not letting us expand our water rights. Seemed kind of crazy to me. So that's going to come up. I will be happy to copy anybody who wants a copy of the email reply he gave me if you want to advise me on what I would say to them before I reply, because this is something that I really should do with more homework and social intelligence than I currently possess. So just wanted to let you know that email will be coming to you, Rick.
Thank you.
And Scott. Okay, thanks.
Okay, then your other two comments are for issues on the agenda. So, there's no public hearing. We have a consent agenda. The items are, number 1, approve minutes for Finance Committee meeting January 7th, regular scheduled board meeting. Right. This is it.
This is a total computer failure.
Okay, the first item on the consent agenda is approve minutes for Finance Committee meeting January 7th, regular scheduled board meeting January 16th, 2020. The second item is approve warrants for February 1st, 2019. The third item is monthly review of current investment portfolio. The fourth item is connection permit applications received. The fifth is monthly water production report for December 2016. The sixth is the rain report, and the seventh is the solar energy report. Does any board member want to pull any items for later discussion?
Just make a brief statement.
Yes.
So I just want to point out that this time around, we do not have a financial report included and the PARS report. We will provide those so the reports that we were supposed to submit this month, next month. And the same is true for the SAM flow report. So we haven't received the materials for those reports, so we'll submit those with the next consent agenda.
Okay.
I move to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Catherine? Okay, so it passes.
Oh, can we vote with those kind of votes?
Yes.
Or do we have to do roll call?
I looked at that issue. Roll call's required when the entire meeting is, all the participants are teleconferencing in. That's what the statute says, because you can't tell people are, who's talking.
I didn't know we could have one without a quorum physically present.
The quorum has to be within the district boundaries, but they can call in. The statute that governs teleconference.
I'll tell you about the chat I had with the AG's office at another time, where they told me I could not do that.
Really?
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
Been a while.
Yeah, because they've revised that.
Okay.
But thank you for raising that, because I did look at that issue today before I came.
Thank you for
Wanted to
looking.
be prepared.
Internet password, is that what you need?
No, it's,
All right.
Are we good?
Okay, so on to old business. Review and possible action concerning water rate systems reliability charge study.
Thank you, Jim. So we've been talking about this since quite some time. The district has now since several months, since I think April last year, since almost a year, considered a water system reliability charge to finance infrastructure needs. We met with the Finance Committee on twice this month, the last time on January 28, 2020. And so we went through some of the items, some of the questions that we had at the last meeting, and are now coming forward with some suggestions for those that were reviewed with the Finance Committee. And I'd like to hand the word to Alex right now. So we're looking this time around only focused on the issues that we discussed during the Finance Committee meeting on the water system reliability charges.
Yeah, and we've talked about this at length in some of the prior meetings. Today it's just more of a summary. In the board packet, there's just like a one-page mini summary for the water system reliability charge, a dedicated funding source for the water system improvements. And what's being proposed is a charge targeted to generate $1 million per year. It would be a fixed charge based on water meter size, with the private fire service connections essentially paying half. So if you're a single-family home with private fire service only, you pay half what a regular home would pay. And on the one-page summary that was in the board packets at the bottom, there was the details of what the charge would look like. For most of your accounts, the large majority of them are served by 5/8 and 3/4 inch meters. The annual charge would be $558.66, with the other charges, ratcheted based on meter size. And again, to adopt these charges, you have to go through the Prop 218 process. And to get these charges on the property tax roll, similar to your sewer rates, there's a kind of a parallel process that I think could happen with the same Prop 218 notice to authorize the charges to be collected on the tax rolls. And that's that.
Okay, should we go a little bit into maybe, for example, the economic hardship rate, the discussion that we had at the Finance Committee meeting, where essentially we looked a little bit further into what Recology does and how Recology actually works with the PG&E Care program, and also considered a bit what the PG&E Care program, who's eligible for the PG&E Care program. And so staff and the committee find that this would actually be really an ideal way of offering a hardship rate without necessarily having to review customers' financial situations and so on. So the way Recology does it is essentially they're asking for a proof of participation in the PG&E Care program, and so the the name on this bill that is submitted that proves that they're participating in this program needs to match the Recology account. Now, the Recology account matches usually the property owner. So Recology is willing to work with us, meaning they would simply turn over and hand us the list of participants and the necessary proof so that we can actually put those folks on a list. Essentially, we're talking now about, on the sewer side, this is a once per year look, really. And on the sewer side, we all understand that it is the property owners that are affected. The suggestion is to consider this for both the water side as well as the sewer side. So the suggestion is to essentially on each side to allow for an annual $100 discount. On the water side, the discount would be applied bi-monthly because that's the way we bill. So there is once in a while a need actually to verify a PG&E Care bill because we may have a renter that's participating in the program and who's responsible for the water bill. So I think that summarizes a little bit the idea of what we want to do for folks that essentially have a hard time paying their bills, their water and sewer bills. The funding source would be property tax revenues, and we talked about, of course, that the Pillar Ridge folks are a little bit in a different situation because there's due to the meter agreement and arrangement with Pillar Ridge that essentially would allow us to say that folks in Pillar Ridge wouldn't be able to participate in that rebate program. That's, I think, everything on the...
Is the idea that maybe Pillar Ridge might want to do something similar?
So, ultimately, the financial impact on the Pillar Ridge side is much less than for individual homeowners because we're serving them through the 4-inch meter.
Right.
And our contract spells out that we're billing them according to the 4-inch meter.
Mm-hmm.
The 4-inch meter comes up to essentially it's 25 times the flow of the 5/8 meter.
Mm-hmm.
So they would pay 25 times the 558, yet there is 227 units behind this meter. So that is a substantial
that's
difference
part of-
between the Pillar Ridge system and the Montara system.
Yeah, and that was taken into account because that's a low-income housing
Yes.
facility when we established our arrangement.
Right. So, and here I have to mention once more that Pillar Ridge owns their own water system, and that's why we bill and we supply them with water. So we sell our water to Pillar Ridge, and that's why we have this arrangement with them. So I think that was one of the bigger items that we really looked at, is this hardship rate, and then of course the points that Alex brought up. So that's a bit what we have on the water side. Yes?
At one point, I didn't want to mention anything about this, but in the board packet, there's like a one-page summary of the economic hardship discount, and attached to that was just some information I printed off the website of the PG&E Care program, so you can see what the eligibility requirements are. And there are different ways of qualifying. One is if you're, if you are receiving some kind of public assistance program, CalWorks, Head Start, Supplemental Social Security Income, SSI. There's a whole list of programs. If you're on those, you automatically qualify for the CARE program. There's also an income threshold that you can apply as well. the key thing is that the district's not gonna be the one, digging through someone's finances for this, but there are a lot of different ways to qualify for the PG Care program. And there's not a ton of people that are participating on it, like in the district, Clemens was able to get a list from Ecology, and it was like, I think a little less than 25 participants currently, so maybe there's more folks who are eligible or aren't taking advantage of it, but at that level, at $200 a year for the water and the sewer, we'd be talking about a financial contribution of about $5,000, something in that range of property taxes.
Thank you. So, and from my perspective, I'm actually going to ask the board tonight to authorize us to start drafting Prop 218 notice, not to distribute, but to bring to a next meeting, because I think time-wise, we're at that point where we have to start looking at how do we roll this out. So,
Especially since the next meeting is canceled.
the next regular scheduled meeting is canceled, yes. So we have our next meeting in March, and that's why I think we should start thinking about drafting the Prop 218 notice, and you'll see that staff recommendation reflected also on the sewer side.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely.
Okay.
Public comment?
Public comment. Go ahead.
So I think we all realize we need to have a rate increase. So my comments are a little bit technical here, but I wanted to register that I view this analysis as incomplete. And you will recall last time when there were numbers handed out that justified $2 million a year in capital expenditures, and yet the board agreed to fund $1 million. And I was like, well, weren't they serious in asking for $2 million? And don't you want to know what the state of reserves is going to be over time? This analysis doesn't forecast the water reserves, and there's still that $500,000 loan that you guys know better than I do about whether it needs to be replaced. I would like to just see, as a pro forma matter, the projections actually carried out that show the impact of this on the district's water finances, even though I realize we're probably not going to ask for more money in the short run because people won't stand for it. But I'd like to see how far we are from where we ought to be.
We'll take that question up in the next Finance Committee meeting because we don't have the year-end numbers yet.
Okay, and I would hope maybe we could slip in a Finance Committee meeting since we're not holding a board meeting. I've asked Clemens for copies of some of the worksheets that our esteemed Bartle Wells associate has produced, and I plan on doing my own little what-if analysis, and I'd be glad to offer that to you all so you can see the kind of presentation I'm looking at. One last comment. There's a table in there, which I was glad to see, $30-something million of capital expenses over the next 20 years. But that raises the question, is that all the assets? You mean to say there's no other assets, or if there are other assets, none of them is going to require any reserves because they're going to age? I suspect there are longer-term assets. They may have longer lives, but I'm curious as to whether we're, again, understating the need for reserves by not looking at assets beyond 20 years. Okay? Final point. I think, and I know we discussed this at the last meeting, the Prop 218 should have an inflation index in it. I know we're only going to do this for 2 years, but you might as well get in practice. Okay? And other districts I can tell you that I've talked to are thinking about putting this in there to Proposition 218. Okay, since you or somebody raised it.
I think we discussed that
but
earlier.
But I think somebody said, or maybe it was you in the minutes, it says, oh, we're going to revisit this in 2 years, let's not do it. I think you ought to put it in there, even if it's only going to take effect for 1 year. Because who knows when you're going to get around to changing the rates, and just get in practice. All right, thanks.
Jim, just a quick comment on reserves and the 20-year thing. Just a reminder that reserves are an ongoing fund, and the reserves that we've described have to do with anticipated within a time frame the kind of risks that we might face. So, for example, the operating reserve is there to provide cash flow during periods where income to the district might fluctuate, but that reserve should never need to be more than any reasonable anticipation of cut-off cash flow. When it comes to replacing infrastructure that ages and times out, we've got an ongoing analysis of the capital facilities with the list of everything in the district and the prioritized risk-based list that is very heavily influenced by the age on its expected lifespan or other information that might inform us about risks to that infrastructure. Like if we observe something is aging faster than we would have thought, we'll accelerate that in our estimation of our capital improvement plan needs. So I take your point, and it's a good thing for us to think about. I think the rolling nature of this with a constant refresh every year about what's going on with our infrastructure is a mitigation against that. And when we set reserve levels, it should always be with the latest information about what we know about the age and risks of the individual components in the facility. So if today things are brand new, in 20 years things are 20 years older, some will be very close to their end of life, but some may have a 50 to 75 year expected lifespan. So, as you know, there's a lot of pieces, very few of them moving, pumps do, but it's a whole lot of pieces, but the whole thing has to be taken. I think I find solace in knowing that our engineers on both the water and sewer side keep the list of here are the things that we're keeping an eye on, here are the things that we know are aging out, here are the things that we have observed some concerns about. So it's always things floating to the top of that list, and then we've got to look at, okay, in a year where some things go bad all of a sudden, what would that add up to? So that's what we've got to make sure we've got either reserves or the ability to go get cash at that time. Reserves are probably better. And one other thing about reserves, if we have projects that we've slated for a given year, we know to start building towards that instead of trying to do it all in 1 year. So those would be specific reserves that we might be building up for an individual capital project. So slice it a bunch of ways. It's good to be attentive to it. I'm glad you brought it up.
Okay. Any other board members? Peter? Rick?
Do we need to vote on that, or is it just,
Yeah, I guess so.
have them proceed?
Well, I would like authorization to proceed with the draft, to bring a draft Prop 218 back.
So moved.
Yes. I second it.
Yes, I think we need
Can we just give direction?
that's what I was
Yeah.
asking.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you can.
Yes, Carl agreed. Catherine, any comments? Is she still there?
Catherine?
Just a little quieter than usual.
It is a bit
I
quiet.
would presume that we're good with that. So.
Oh, well, if we're all good with that.
The four of us are good.
I think so.
Okay,
Okay.
so we're going to move on to new business. Review and, excuse me,
Sewer rate study.
second item of old business. Apologize.
Accept.
Accepted. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Peter.
Quite magnanimous.
Review and possible action concerning sewer rate study.
Yeah. Thank you very much. This time we actually have presentation. So on the sewer side, we do have a presentation that we can project. So let's do that. Alex, should we, or you want to just, we'll talk through it? You want to project it? Or? I mean, ultimately, it's the same situation. We went to the Finance Committee and are coming back with some recommendations. Alex,
Yeah, sure.
We'll just
I
take it from-
don't know if we were going to keep the presentation. We kind of did it last time, so I thought we'd just kind of summarize kind of the key points. We did
Okay.
talk about this with the Finance Committee. But the sewer has been facing a similar situation as the water, where you have a lot of aging infrastructure here in Montara. And you've got a wastewater treatment plant that's operated by SAM, but it's over 40 years old now, and a lot of components are approaching the end of their useful life. So the district's done its own analysis, the same on the sewer side as it did on the water side, looking at the age and life of the facilities and when these replacements are going to take place, and looking forward for the next 20 years or so The number worked out in present value, about $1.9 million per year of investment would be needed over time in the sewer, the district's own sewer facilities. Doesn't mean you have to start spending this next year. This just means you gotta continue to ramp up the funding on the sewer side to address these needs. And I will say the district, over the last 2 years, took a very substantial step in that direction with, rate increases that almost, totaled 50% over the last 2 years to generate more sewer capital funding. What's being proposed now is to build upon that with additional rate increases I'll get to in a minute. And again, just to summarize on the SAM side, there's been a recent kind of engineering evaluation, big picture done. They gave a whole range of costs that could be invested at the SAM level, anywhere from like 15 to 40 million over the next 5-10 years, or maybe a little bit longer. 15 million was kind of, hey, what if we just did kind of these quick fixes to keep things going a little bit longer? But longer term, the 40 million number was kind of proposed for really doing a lot more rehab and rebuilding, replacement of kind of some of these aging components, and some of it's just due to SAM's location on the coast, where pumps and electrical equipment is just gonna wear out a lot quicker than if it's in the dry desert somewhere. SAM does not know how they're gonna be funding these facilities. They may end up issuing debt at some point for a chunk of projects, in which case you'd have to fund your share. But what we did, we built sewer cash flow projections to fund your operating needs, your own capital needs, phasing in funding towards eventually getting to the current dollar value of 1.9 million plus inflation. You're not going to get there over the next few years, but you are going to be generating significant funding for capital needs with what you've done with the rate increases in the past. And if you keep those rate increases moving in the right direction. And we do have SAM's, the draft version of their 5-year CIP, which includes, some of the improvements in the treatment plant and also some of the mandatory improvements they have to make to the force main under a consent decree they have with ERP, I forget what that stands for, an environmental group. So those projects have to be done in the next 4 or 5 years. So we built projections, and we looked, hey, if you were gonna do a one-time sewer rate increase to really, get the rates where they need to be, it'd have to be, over 50% rate increase. We adjusted a little from last time. But at the same time, you are generating more for capital thanks to the rate increases you did in the past. You're already doing a lot of rate increase on the water side with this water system reliability charge. You're putting a lot of, more burden on the ratepayers, and the thoughts were, hey, if you can continue to phase in sewer rate increases at the single-digit level of 9% per year, you're going to keep building upon what you did and moving towards the longer-term goal of generating more funding. So you're in a pretty good place for sewer, and the recommendation is to keep the foot on the gas pedal with kind of steady, gradual 9% rate increases for the next few years, and then you come back and reevaluate again with the understanding you likely need to keep gradual rate increases moving in the right direction to meet your longer-term capital infrastructure needs. So that was the proposal. It was 3 9% rate increases on the sewer side. Those would go on the same Prop 218 notice as the water system reliability charge, as the ability to collect the water system reliability charge on the property tax rolls, and the third thing being the sewer rate increase.
And that was the
Proposal by
the proposal for the finance committee. Finance committee met, and we reviewed that, and that was our proposal. Greg, discuss. Public comment, please.
So once again, I'm getting a copy of Alex's worksheet. There's one thing, I believe, Alex, correct me, that's not in here, which is that since we're considering changing the billing months, there's going to be a 2-3% decrease in revenues based on that, not shown in these financials. I think the same issue applies here, although this analysis, thank you, does show reserve balances. Those reserves are 50% of O&M plus $2 million, which doesn't sound like capital reserves. It sounds like the operating reserves and emergency reserves. Okay, so the American Water Works Association, for what it's worth, has separate funds for capital reserves. We're not showing that. But I think the bigger issue here is what's not shown. Pippin did a great job, $108 million in capital over 20 years, could potentially need to be replaced. Again, is there more? we're saying there's nothing else that would ever need any reserve or any cash flow budgeting beyond the 20-year estimate. And the other thing is, what are we going to owe Sam? And this is a little bit out of your control, I realize, but if there's $108 million just in our short-term sewer collection assets, what the heck potentially might Sam need to replace, and how's that factored in? We've had presentations on it, but don't we also need to consider in our rates what we might owe Sam? I'm just asking, you know.
I think Clemens is the best person to answer that because he's been talking about exactly that issue with Sam.
Now you're gonna help me.
Yeah.
What is it? What is it that you're
Well,
thinking of wanting to talk?
We wanted to figure out with Sam more accurately what we can expect in monthly billing, and we haven't quite figured that out yet. With the new management in place, we have now a much better chance to discuss this issue, and I'm sure that on the forthcoming SAM meeting we will ask that question.
Yeah, I mean, I would answer with, of course, we're considering the rate increases that we're seeing at SAM right now. There is a portion of the biggest share, really, or big share of the rate increase is due to the increases at SAM. I mean, it's going to be a similar answer to what Scott gave you on the water side, essentially, right? This is a process of continuously reassessing our situation at SAM and here in the district on water and sewer side, and it's a continuously adjusting to the situation. Of course, there is great ways to plan for the future and to really look very hard and closely at the numbers, but ultimately, it's from our experience, it is extremely difficult to look further than 2 years on the cost, really, on assessing cost, and that is why we're trying to have Prop 218 assessments and our rates reviewed as often as possible to adjust to those changing circumstances.
Do you have any answer to that, Peter, please?
Yeah, I
To
think so.
why we're not considering, we are considering SAM, but we can't consider specifically at this point, and you know, if we could, we would. But what Greg is saying, we should throw in maybe more in consideration. Can you respond to that, please?
Yeah, I think in the near term, there has been an engineering assessment that's recently done that's, you know, talking about SAM anywhere from 15 to 40 million, and we don't even know how they're going to financing it, which if they use state revolving fund loan or debt service, that makes your annual payment a lot lower, and that's less money they have for future rehab and replacement. So I think for at least for a number of years, you've got a pretty good, or as good as you can get, sense now where it's going to go. And you're going to keep moving, you're building upon the rate increases you did last time, and keep, you know, the best you can do in this industry, you never have perfect information. Look long-term, and maybe long-term will be worse, or maybe it won't be as bad, and, you know, move things in the right direction, understanding you're going to have to reevaluate, and you probably have to keep your foot on the gas pedal in future years. But what we're seeing is, you did a lot last time. You don't have a dire need to double the rates overnight now, and there's a balance of objectives with what you want to do with your ratepayers as well. So you are taking steps in the right direction, and you are going to come back and probably have to do more rate increases and see what the reality unfolds in the future, and you're always going to adjust course and stay on top of it like the plan is. Like a lot of agencies do.
I am confident that the management change at SAM will give us the opportunity in the next few months to come to a way better idea of what's going on. We don't have that idea now, but we will, I'm sure.
Peter, you're right. I mean, Sam is putting a lot of focus on trying to figure out how to address the future right now.
Yes.
And we're going to learn much more from what's happening at Sam right now.
And this is the first step. This is the first step that we think is appropriate. And it's a reasonable step for this district under the circumstances. Scott, do you have any comments?
I would just say, there's no one meeting that does everything that this agency does. It's
Yeah.
always a series of meetings, always ongoing, always course correcting and starting things and tuning things as we go. It's kind of one of the nice things about doing this. It's like if we had to figure it out perfectly before we did anything, it would be really hard. But here we've got really good staff here. We're liking what we're seeing happening at SAM right now, giving us a lot more confidence about converging on some information that we can budget off of. Hearing people who are like spending a lot of time looking at the financials, speaking calmly about it, hearing confidence from Clemens on this. These are all good indicators. We know we've got a rough road, but we've got a good team and feeling like work's happening in the right direction. It's not a lot of the uncertainties falling away as we get crisper information. So.
Okay, so are we, do we need to vote on this or just give direction for 218?
We'll be happy with direction for 218.
Okay, so are we okay with giving direction then?
Yes.
Everybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have Catherine on the phone? Or is it just Yolanda?
She is listening, she says.
Okay.
Is she there?
Catherine? Hello?
Could you try to raise her?
Listening but not talking.
No, for the next
Oh.
item, if she doesn't answer, we may need to do a roll call vote or indicate that she's not present. Yeah,
Sounds
the
right.
next, yeah.
Okay, but for this one.
Hold on, she's there. So she's just trying to get off mute.
Technical difficulties.
Yes.
Okay.
Technical.
Okay, I'm off mute, I heard everything, and, I want to say Sam is working very hard to get this up. Because it needs $30 or $40 million, and we've got to figure out how to get it. But it's over quite a stretch.
Okay, so we're giving direction then for the 218. Okay, Clemens?
Thank you, yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, so moving on to new business. Number 1, review and possible action concerning support for National Stewardship Action Council's Flushable wipes issue. That's
Quite a title.
almost too long for English phraseology.
You could just shorten it to enjoy the go, which is the commercial.
In German, it will be just one word.
It'd be one word. That's what I was
That
thinking
big.
of. It'd be one word.
So, so we're gonna receive a presentation from Heidi Sanborn. She's the National Stewardship Action Council Executive Director. I have to get her on the phone, so 1 second, and I'm gonna set this up. And
You're gonna lose Catherine here.
yeah, no, I'm working with 2 phones,
Two
so
So sophisticated.
just trying to just bear with me 1 second here. And I'm gonna start.
Hi, Clarence.
Hi, Heidi. Hey, I have you on speakerphone, and we're in the midst of our board meeting.
Hello.
So, and I'm just about to fire up the projector, and yeah, I think I'm ready for you to start the presentation. So we're looking at slide 1, and you can of course introduce yourself first.
Great. Thank you so much, Clemens, for having me, and thank you all for allowing me to do this remotely. I had an event at my home this evening, and it's it's a long drive, so I greatly appreciate it. I'm Heidi Sanborn. I'm the Executive Director of the National Stewardship Action Council. We are a nonprofit formed 5 years ago here in California, and our goal is to basically drive a circular economy where the manufacturers of products must be responsible for the end of life of those products. So you can go to the next slide. And I'll tell you a little bit about the National Stewardship Action Council and why we're here tonight, which is that we were asked by the California Association of Sanitation Agencies to help them pass a bill. And it's on the flushable wipes, which I know is of great interest to the sanitation agencies. In order to help them, we need funding and to gather a big enough coalition that we can pass the bill this year. And now who we are and why they asked us to help is that while there were small and lean, we're extremely effective. We are a 501c4 nonprofit. We are affiliated with the California Product Stewardship Council, with a 501c3, and I formed that in 2007 as the founding director. We were so successful at passing what we call extended producer responsibility legislation for everything from emergency thermostats to carpet, paint, and mattresses. And last year, 2008, and medicines and sharps, that we started getting asked by a lot of other states for help. And so we formed this national coalition so that we could work across the country to pass this kind of legislation and be more effective at actually changing the entire industry. So our vision is that the United States attains the circular economy, and our mission is that we collaborate with the public and private sectors to advance product stewardship. And that's a picture of our board having a strategic planning meeting. Go to the next slide, please.
Okay.
And just a couple of our board members. These are our executive board. Includes consultants from Washington State. David Stitzel, our president. Tim Gonchara from the County of Santa Cruz. Patty Barbarino is our treasurer from our Sanitary service, and works closely with Recology. And then Constance Hornick, who's with has a law office in LA that does a lot of work in the waste industry. And the next slide is the last four board members, so we just added a ninth member as well. I haven't gotten on the slide yet. He's in Indianapolis. But we've got Texas, an electronics recycler, Beverly in Colorado, and Chris Ripley is in Texas as well doing hazardous waste. So we've got a very broad board of public and private sector. Next slide. And as you know, Albert Einstein said the true definition of madness is repeating the same thing over and over, hoping for a different result. So we're trying something different, and it's working.
Okay, continue.
Next slide.
Yes.
So a lot of people wonder, what is a circular economy? Basically what it is it's taking what nature already taught us. It's a circle, and everything is recycled. The waste from one system becomes the feedstock for the next. And that's what we have to do with our industrial manufactured materials that don't belong to nature because they disturb it and create pollution. But we need, if we produce them, to keep them in a circle, to keep them, design them to keep them out of the landfill in a closed loop system where they just can be reused over and over again. And the three principles are that we design waste out of the system, we keep products and materials in use, and we also go back and fix what we broke, basically with natural systems. Next slide.
Yes.
One of our campaigns, just to give you a sense of what we do, is the Refuel Your Fun and Save campaign. This is where we partnered with a California manufacturer who created 1 pound, like the Coleman propane cylinder. They are now reusable for 10 years. And we have a whole campaign around Refuel Your Fun, and we've done a lot of work even in Santa Cruz. There's John Laird there on the beach with the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts promoting it, did a TV commercial for us. Go to the next slide. And this is a map San Mateo and Bay Area, all the locations we've already set up selling and refilling these 1-pounders. This is very circular. And that's what we want to do, is partner with public and private sectors. We've got U-Haul now selling them across the country, and this is a win-win for everybody. That just gives you an example of the kind of things that we do. We also, next slide, have the Don't Rush to Flush, Measure the Bin, We All Win campaign. And we started this in 2010. It started with a few medicine bins across Alameda County. They passed an ordinance to make the drug companies pay for it. Then we went to different counties, including San Mateo. That was passed in 2015. And now you've got medicine bins across the county, all paid for by the drug company. Next slide. And that's a picture of the actual hearing in San Mateo County with a 5-0 vote. And now we also passed in 2018, as I mentioned, the bill statewide. And this is also to keep people from flushing their medications. We don't want them to get into the water where it's hard to remove them. Next slide. So just to show you, there's medicine bins all over your county, and we're getting more all the time. And you can go to the Don't Rush to Flush webpage, which we run, and that will show you where you can drop off your medicines for free, paid for by the drug company. Next slide. So again, kind of getting back to why we're here and the efforts we're going to do with Flushable Life. Just to give you a sense of we've passed all these bills in California since 2008 on pesticide containers, the recalled products, mercury thermostats, paint, carpet, mattresses, and then medicines and sharps. And bottles and cans was not our bill. We've helped on a couple cleanups. We're working on packaging now. That is a very big deal. A lot of litter from those. We're also working now on tobacco waste, which is also ending up in storm drains and ending up in pollution, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Next slide. So California statewide meds and needle disposal. The law, I was told, would never be passed. And I said, no, it should be, because it's the right thing to do. And we eventually ended up getting it signed into law in 2018 with a 39-0 vote off the Senate floor. The manufacturers actually supported the bill, and the reason was our strategy. We went to counties one by one, passed 12 ordinances, which then drove that industry to the table at the state level. We never would have gotten them to the negotiating table at the state level had we not passed local ordinances. So local action matters. And it matters also to the legislators when they start to see you guys take action, then they want to take action. They know it's a priority for you. On the floor, Senator Jeff Stone from Temecula, who's a pharmacist, actually made an impassioned speech to pass the bill because he knew about all the problems. Even needles are flushed out the toilet. That's been a problem for sanitation agencies as well. The regs are being developed now, and that program will be working by next year in the state. And again, this was literally 8 years of my life and still working on it, but I'm very proud of that because it was the hardest bill maybe in the country. Next slide. So our track record is basically, I became full-time with the National starting January of this year. I've got my staff Jordan with me. We've got an amazing lobbyist who's a brilliant strategist. And every bill we have introduced, and they've all been in California, we have had passed and signed into law. I don't think anybody has a better record. So first, of course, was the meds and sharps. Then we did 2 on carpet in 2017 and 2019. We had to clean up, and there was one reason we couldn't do it all in one bill. I couldn't get into that now. It would take too long. But then we passed the first eco-modulated fee in the country, meaning the public would see if it's a poorly designed product, a higher fee. And then we also passed the Caballero Berman bill this last year, which allows expands household hazardous waste reuse, so it doesn't all have to go for burning. Next slide.
Yep.
So this year, the priority is Flushable Life. And again, CASA sent us a letter and said, we really need your help. we've been working on this since 2009. We're not getting anywhere. We're stuck in the appropriations committee, which is where things go to die. And you pass all these really hard bills. We need your help. And I've been hearing about this for 6 years. I remember talking to the Orange County Sanitation Agency about this after they pulled a fatberg out of the ground and had to tear up the street to get it out. It cost them $250,000. And I told them at that point what I thought should be done, and they never did it. And so, now that we're in this partnership with CASA and all of you to try and get this done, I'll just say one thing. These bills take resources. I estimate every bill for us is about $100,000. And we could save millions on the bill, but they do take an effort. You have to have a lobbyist. You have to have a campaign. You have to be coordinated. A lot of stuff going on. And so where we are now with this bill, next slide, is, it started with a bill that was CASA sent us a letter basically in November. I told them I really want to do it, but I have to raise money to do it. And she said, go forth to our people, take this letter, and please, ask them for funding so that you can help us do it. So that's the letter in the picture there, and they asked us because they wanted to elevate and effectuate legislative action. We do have a unique and very credible voice in the Capitol. Next slide. We're also taking on this year tobacco waste, which would also matter to you, I believe. It's going to prohibit the sale of single-use cigarette filters and the plastic filters on the cigarillos, the small cigars. It also is requiring take-back for all vaping products. And Jules is literally at the table working with us on the bill. I have a meeting with them and the author's office tomorrow. And the author is Senator Jackson, the same author of the bill on pharmaceuticals and insurance. So she's very committed to getting this done. So that's another product that we're working on and we can involve you in. Next slide. And we're also this year working on packaging, as I mentioned. SB 54 and AB 1080, which would make the producers be responsible for source reduction of packaging and then recycling everything that's left. And we're working very closely with them. Next slide. So we're also working on national legislation on packaging with Senator Udall and Representative Lowenthal, who's from Los Angeles, actually in Long Beach. And it's the first national bill on packaging waste. It's going to address even the cigarette filters. They're making a big pitch on Monday in D.C., having a precedent and announcement on Tuesday. I've been part of the entire effort. So we are working on all these things that I think do affect you and would hopefully help tremendously the sanitation agency. Next slide. We also have been working on the campaign to end the FDA medication flush list. They are still telling the public to flush their medications if they are controlled and they have no medicines in nearby. And that is not helpful for protecting water quality. So that is something I'm working on with LA Sanitation and some others. So all of these things are things that we work on. And here's a picture of us celebrating after we got our 39-0 vote off the Senate floor. Just to tell you, who's in the picture on the left is Melissa Immel, who is now in the governor's office as the secretary in charge of waste management. Jason Schmelzer, our lobbyist on the right in the back. He's amazing, and a partner in their lobbying firm that represents more than 50% of the county. And then Anthony Williams, at the bottom, is now also the secretary for the governor. So we just happened to snap that, and then two of them went to the governor's office. Next slide.
And Heidi, are you in the middle? Is that you in the middle?
Yeah, that is me in the middle. Sorry, yeah. It was a big day. We were very happy. That was at 9 o'clock at night after a very long day. And then, so basically what we're asking is a simple annual donation for this year for $1,000. That is a contribution. If you want to give more, of course, we'd be delighted. This is, I estimate it's having at least $5,000 a month to my budget to take on Flushable Life. But the good news is this: not only do you get all these benefits, but we have a Flushable Life listserv. I'm going to be reaching out to you directly to make sure that when we do the bill language, that we're doing it in a way that you're supportive of. We'll keep you informed via call. You'll be able to reach out to us at any time. We're working on all these other things that are of issues for you, and we're good at this. We really do know what we're doing, and we just need to be funded to do it. So the devil's in the details. There's a lot of great ideas, next slide, and a lot of terrific plans, but it's all down to execution, and we're very, very good at this. So we'd love to have your support and partnership. We were very fortunate to do this presentation to the Mid-Coastal Agency. They were very gracious and just offered to double it. I wouldn't ask you to do that, but and the last slide is me, the picture of me there as well. But we would be very grateful to have your support and have you join the group so that we can get the Flushable Life bill done this year. And just so you know, since we started working on this just a month ago, we've already got Kimberly Clark at the table. They are negotiating with us now. We changed the direction of the bill a little bit, but we also have gotten it out of appropriations where we thought it was going to die, and we got it off the assembly floor in 2 weeks. So we are now in the second house. We're ready to rock and roll and start the negotiations, and we want to close the deal and get you guys a good bill that will help end the scourge of quote-unquote Flushable Life. I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Heidi. Jim?
I didn't get your call. Leave a text.
Heidi, just a quick question. When you do on the bottle that has the quote flushable unquote wipes, what you might want is to have wipes, but a sign saying do not flush or non-flushable. How direct do you think you might be planning that?
So what we told Kimberly Clark was pretty clear. They were very much against the definition of flushable as far as, I'm sorry, what's the term that they use? The biodegradable, there was a term that CASA was using and that they were defining and wanted in the law. So it would guarantee that things disperse. And what my lobbyist noticed immediately was, he said, I hate to say this, but I think the science that they have is better. And if we're arguing the flushability standard, I think we're going to lose. So he and I and CASA, we all worked together to think through how could we rejigger this to still get what we want, which is the public to stop thinking these are flushable and flushing them, but not go head on into a buzzsaw with this flushability standard. So we told Kimberly Clark, look, if you will come to the table, we will back off on the flushability standard. But here's the deal. We don't want plastic going into the water. We don't want plastic being labeled flushable. We have to make it crystal clear to the consumer that these are trash. Nothing else can happen with them. And they have to be clearly labeled in a very obvious way, probably with a symbol. Like if they, circled the red on the toilet sort of thing. And they were open to that. So the discussions are going to start and the negotiations are going to start now. And I can just give you my word. We do not do bills that are not worthy of our time. If we do this, it will be to get a real bill that will make real change. Now, one of the things we're thinking about doing is also requesting that the industry put up money to pay for a study that will be done by somebody else, like UT, one of the UT schools, that would, because one of the problems we're having is they're telling us, and they've got pretty good data to back it up, that most of what's in these clogs is not it's the other wipes. It's facial, cosmetic sorts of wipes, and other wipes that aren't being properly labeled either. And if we do that study and find out that there's other wipes that are also part of the problem, then that's good, because then it sets us up for a bill to expand to all of these things and all of these products. Or if we have Kimberly Clark and some of these big companies that have multiple product lines, we can negotiate with them on all of them.
Okay, Heidi, thank you very much. Anybody have, one of the audience have any comments?
While Greg's getting
Greg?
ready,
Go
Heidi,
ahead.
this is Rick Lohman. I also serve on SAM and saw you there. You mentioned one of the bullets way down on the recent slide that we might be able to provide a consultant or somebody from our agency, not necessarily to serve on the board, but to be a constant consultant to describing exactly what the problems we see exactly here. Would there be the possibility of one of our engineers, serving as a direct consultant, showing pictures, etc.? This is the problem we're seeing.
Yes, we would love that. I mean, in fact, I always say to people, pictures speak 1,000 words. And if we can get real pictures with just a small caption of where and when and what we're looking at, and I can get a whole bunch of them, that makes the case for the bill. So that's the kind of stuff that's extremely helpful at lobbying.
I would hope we could help out on that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, as partners, that's what we do. I mean, if you have the time and you want somebody to participate like that and be my go-to person on the bill, I'm all for it, because I am not an expert in this. You guys are. So we definitely need boots on the ground and real stories and real pictures. They're extremely helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And that would be a great partnership.
My thought is, instead of my original thought weeks ago bringing up this subject, instead of just sending letters around to everybody, I would prefer to support something like Heidi's group, who's actively working in the legislature right now, rather than just sending letters to the Board of Supervisors and things like that, because this seems like real action that will get us results the quickest, I think. So that would be my vote.
Okay, Scott.
Yeah.
Okay. Peter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to know if you have any contacts with the County of San Mateo and what efforts you've made there or with their member agencies.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we have been in touch with County of San Mateo, and I just received a donation from them from 2 different departments. So I believe one of them was the side that has the sanitation side.
What about Department of Sustainability?
I'll have to go back and check, but I got 2 checks from them from 2 different departments. So I'll have to go back and check. If you have an email, I'd be happy to email you when I go back and look at the invoice report.
Okay.
I'll send you an email.
Okay, Rick.
I have one more quick comment. We have a San Mateo County chapter of special districts, which includes several sanitary districts here that meets every 3 months. I was going to bring it up earlier in the week, but the meeting got canceled. I will put it on the agenda to at least get a letter from this organization, which has 26 special districts, of which probably 8 or 9 have sanitary district functions, just at least a letter of support. They don't have finances, but I can get a letter to you from our San Mateo County chapter, so I'll get that done.
Thank you. And if you get me a contact there, I'll put them on the listserv.
Okay.
So that they can at least see when I'm sending out calls for help. I need letters. I need somebody to call their legislator, that they can help respond, because it is we need everybody to lock arms and all march together. That's how we get these hard ones done.
Okay.
I have a question.
Okay.
That is, I heard it said that Kimberly Clark said the flushable wipes are not the only problem. And yes, there are lots of other problems. Why aren't they willing to help with a whole campaign about only flush the appropriate items? Certainly we see in the ladies' room at restaurants and so on, lots of signs about only flush human waste and toilet paper, nothing else. Kimberly Clark makes other kinds of things that get flushed. So I think we need to be making it a big deal about this is your bathroom waste bucket. And I have asked MWSD and SAM to start handing out bags, free bags to people that say, this is for the stuff that you don't want to flush down the toilet. So that
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, and I can certainly bring that up in the negotiations, but typically, yes, I mean, typically, I try to get to the source of the problem so that if somebody intuitively thinks it's flushable, we can assume somebody's going to put it in the toilet and then we have a problem. So whatever they make that is used in a way that makes people think it's flushable, they have to make it out of something biodegradable that disperses so that the system can handle it. The labeling to me is a very big first step, but knowing people, it's really hard to get full compliance when people are busy and moving fast and not reading and et cetera. So we'll see, and these are the kinds of things that we can bring up in the negotiations. And if I have point people, from your agencies, I can let them know, hey, these are the questions that are coming up. What do you think? Is this going to work? Is this enough? Do we need more? And then we can make sure we're all on the same page.
Okay,
I
Scott.
think we need to move on.
Oh,
Okay, we need to move on.
I have a comment.
Okay, Scott has a comment
Just on
first.
the biodegradable point, what really matters for us is whether or not it fouls pumps and clogs pipes. So biodegradable only matters if it's quickly biodegradable and shreddable by the pumps. If it's something that fouls a pump, I don't care what label you put on it, we're going to be against it. So there's a lot of things that are biodegradable. If you put them in the sun for 10 years, it can't be that. It's got to be, practically speaking, in a sewer system, it doesn't foul pumps.
That's a good point, Scott.
And it doesn't snag on roots and other things that serve as a place of buildup to create your fatbergs and such. I have seen some wipes that clearly break down pretty quickly. It'd be very easy to get behind those, but I've seen some that you could use to wash your car every week, and they're not going to break down. I don't care what words they put on the packaging. So it's where the rubber hits the road is really to be. The biodegradable term, I think, could be a real easy cop out for for those guys.
Yeah, no, I agree, and maybe I use that too loosely. We have the same problem with composting and things that they say are biodegradable that take years to break down.
I know you are. I just needed to mention that.
Okay, Heidi. Heidi, thank the board and the staff are looking forward to working with you on these. This is thank you for the fantastic work that you have been doing in the last 8 years or plus, and we're looking forward to working with you in the future. And thank you for coming tonight.
So the staff recommendation is essentially to receive the presentation and then to consider a donation to the National Stewardship Council to support the AB 1672. So we're basically asking you folks to consider a donation.
Okay, can we consider that? Can we put that on a future agenda item so we have a chance to think of what our donation might be?
Sure.
I don't want to make a decision at this instant. How do the other board members feel?
I agree.
I could go with $1,000 just to get this going, because it's gonna be a month before we meet again.
Yeah.
Get that
Well,
started and then talk later.
I would suggest, this is Catherine, that if we're going to be donating money, we do not donate staff time. Remember, we're already donating money through staff. So if we're going, that's a monetary donation.
Well, it sounds like we need to talk about it a bit. And,
Yeah,
I think so.
all right.
So we'll put it on a future agenda for a donation.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, I'll put it on the March agenda.
Great. Thank you. Okay, Heidi, thank you very much.
Thank you all so much. Have a good night.
All right,
Bye-bye.
thanks Heidi. Bye-bye.
Okay, next item on the agenda, review and possible action to amend salary schedule and approve adjustments to the general manager's compensation.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Harvey. I will be presenting this item. And I am going to suggest maybe at the end that we do a roll call vote, just because I think we're having some technical difficulties. So we make sure our record is clear. So the board has before it an item to approve an adjustment to the general manager's salary and other fringe benefits. Just quickly wanted to note that an amended agenda report was submitted today to the board members, and that no substantive changes were made. It was just that we needed to add the list of fringe benefits and the amounts, and that information we just didn't have earlier in the week. So briefly, I'll summarize the agenda report. Under the employment contract with the manager, the board conducted its annual performance evaluation and found the general manager's performance to be satisfactory, thus entitling him to a minimum salary increase based on the Consumer Price Index. The board further found the general manager's performance to qualify as exceptional and exemplary. Those are the standards set forth in his employment contract, also entitling him to a one-time payment to his deferred compensation plan. And finally, missed that one. Finally, the board also considered a one-time payment as a performance, for lack of a better word, bonus for the general manager's performance this past year. The foregoing payments are all in addition to the fringe benefits that the general manager receives for his retirement and health coverage. All of the above specific amounts are set forth in the agenda report, and which will actually be specifically orally reported by the President Pro Tem, which is a requirement of the government code. So the action tonight is to consider adoption of a resolution approving the general manager compensation adjustment resulting from his annual performance evaluation and amending the district salary schedule to reflect the same. So at this time, I guess we're gonna have President Pro Tem needs to orally report the exact payments that will be constitute the general manager's compensation effective January 1st, 2020. And this is a requirement of the government code. It's a little long, but it is something that does need to be orally reported, reflected in the minutes. Then after that, the board can go ahead and consider the item, talk about it. Thank you. It's very long.
In accordance with Government Code Section 54953C3, I am providing an oral summary of the recommended action. The item before the board tonight is to amend the salary schedule and approve adjustment to the general manager's compensation. The recommended action is to amend the general manager's annual salary and set the new salary at $215,956 effective January 1st, 2020. The total annual salary increase is $6,346.35 from the prior year's salary. This action item will also authorize a one-time payment of $6,000 to the general manager's 457 deferred compensation benefit retirement plan account and a one-time cash payment of $15,000 in recognition of the general manager's continued performance. Additional information, including a listing of fringe benefits, are set forth in the amended agenda report associated with this item. Copies of the amended agenda report and related documents have been distributed to all board members and are also available in the public binder and will be incorporated into the minutes of tonight's meeting. To summarize, additional compensation paid in the form of fringe benefits to the general manager also includes a PARS contribution in the amount of $8,739.34, a 457 retirement plan contribution in the amount of $15,116.92, health coverage including dental, vision, and life in the amount of $27,128.64, and $300 for the district's wellness program. Are there any questions from the board or members of the public regarding this item before the board considers the item before us? So there are three main things. There is the 3% increase going from $209,000 to $215,956. There's the $6,000 increase in the general manager's 457 deferred compensation benefit retirement program, and then there's the $15,000 bonus. So those are the three items, and then to the additional things that he gets, which I just read, the PARS, the health coverage, and so forth. Okay, any comments from the public? Okay, no comments from the public. The board will consider the item. Any comments from the board? Catherine, are you still there? Catherine?
Yeah, I'm here. I'd
Okay.
like to mention that Jim and I are on the personnel committee, and we did look at comparable wages for similar positions in similar districts, and we are well within the mid-range. Jim and I have been working very hard on getting a more standardized kind of and quantifiable employee evaluation for Clemens. And this is the first year of it. We're going to be working with Clemens on refining it and refining his job description. So this is the process that we use to get to this wages is the first step in a longer process of making things verifiable and measurable. And it's really been a pleasure to work with Jim on this, and also with our attorney, Christine Fitzgerald and Christopher. Suddenly lost his last name. But anyway, with Christopher.
Boucher. Any other board members? Rick?
Well, I was unable to attend the meeting when all this was decided because I was driving a U-Haul truck at the time. My feeling is that with the past, ongoing, and obscene future costs of the Half Moon Bay suit, all the increases that we're going to be coming up with, I just can't go along with all the bonuses that are being proposed. So if it's a package, I will be voting no on the package. I'd be willing to go with the 3% standard raise, but I just think it's the wrong thing at the wrong time, so I'll be voting no on this. Thank you.
Anybody else? I want to make a comment. It's been a difficult decision to make. The 3% increase from 209 to 215 is a reasonable amount as per contract. 215,956. The 6% is also a reasonable increase. I think that those are fair. I feel that because of the huge increases that this district is that this ratepayers are going to be asked to spend, the huge increases in sewer and water, I think that the $15,000 bonus is not appropriate. I want to further state that I think Clemens has done a fantastic job for this district, and I think we want him to stay. If I vote against the bonus, I am not saying that we want him to start looking for another job or to consider leaving. We want him to stay. We think he's done a great job, and he'll continue to do a good job. And we may do bonuses in the future again. I'm not saying this is not a message to by my voting no on the three items together is not a message to Clemens that he's not doing a great job. Since this came out on the 3rd, I've already had direct comment from my constituents on this issue, and for the ratepayers who have fixed incomes, who got little increases for the cost of living from the government, this is not a good time to give that bonus. So I think I hope Clemens will understand that we do want him to stay. We think it's important that he stays. He's done a fantastic job to build this district up. I just think we need to skip this step, this one particular bonus this year. And so I would like to make a motion that, Christine, help me here. I would like to propose that do we need to vote on all three together first?
I'm wondering if the rest of us might.
Wait, I'm talking to Christine.
I understand.
I'm talking to Christine.
I'm wondering, the
Christine,
rest of us going to get to speak.
Yes, you are.
I think.
Oh, yeah, I see.
we
Scott
should
needs to speak
finish
first.
the discussion
Scott,
first, and
Scott,
then
go
we
ahead.
can talk about the options.
Scott, go ahead.
So the contractual requirement is largely centered around keeping pace with the rate of inflation. And I know that fixed income, like Social Security, that a lot of people have been getting ripped off by the federal government, not keeping pace with the actual rate of inflation. But one of the beauties of local control is that we are not controlled at a great distance by a body that doesn't see the faces that are impacted by it. So when we set up the contract with our general manager, and this is very common across the way public agencies do this, with adequate performance, we keep that in line with inflation so that they don't earn effectively less every year as inflation goes up and the dollar amount stays fixed. So that's something that's in place, and as long as Clemens is doing a good job, and everyone here agrees that Clemens is doing a good job, that's not even up for debate. Now, we've had a practice over the past several years of following, keeping to the contract and then bonusing on top of that. And part of that is very simply a cost containment mechanism, so that rather than putting it in base and then having the inflation rate do the exponential increase on that year over year, we felt this was a mechanism where we could still have that additional revenue to reflect the caliber of the job that he's doing, but try to decouple a little of that from the inflation thing. So we've been doing that, and over the past 3 previous years, I believe there was a bonus of $10,000, $15,000, and $15,000. Were we to not stick to that practice, we would be cutting his pay by $15,000 based on what's been going on. I don't support that. In fact, I strongly support what was put forward, which was the contractual plus the $15,000 bonus. Would be very clear that that is based on performance, and also based very, very simply on we've got a very challenging year ahead, and we need our A game going into this year. And it's real money, there's no doubt about it, but up against the magnitude of the problems we're trying to solve, it's a marginal amount, and this isn't the year to make a pay cut for somebody who's at the helm trying to lead this agency. So I'm very, very strongly supportive of doing as we intended.
I completely agree with Scott. I have been working now as a new incoming board member since November with Clemens, and I find that we get along well. I know he's doing a great job from what I've seen so far, and I fully support the continued giving of a bonus simply by virtue of the board having previously expressed the appreciation for the good job that Clemens has done by giving him a bonus. And to take that away is just a bad sign. It's a bad sign for Clemens because it doesn't reward him for the good work that he's done. And in general, everything that Scott has said, I fully support.
Quick proposal, I would propose that we vote on the original contract proposal, because if it passes, the rest of the discussion is moot.
I'd like to also make a comment, respond to Scott's comment. It's not a pay cut. He's getting, he's going from 209,000 to 216,000, plus he's getting $6,000 increase. That's not a pay cut. The people working today, 3% is an increase. I've lived all my life with 3% increases. Other people do. It's not a pay cut. I take issue with this terminology. Catherine, did you have a comment before we move on?
Yes, I do. I
And then we'll
agree
go on
with
with the
Scott
issue.
and Peter.
Pardon me? Okay.
I agree with Scott and Peter.
Okay, so we do the motion then for the original.
Let's just vote.
I'll move for the proposed increases.
Okay, do you have a second? Okay, so we'll have a vote.
I'd like to do a roll call. if
We'll do a
that's-
roll call vote. Okay.
Would you mind doing the roll call? Thank you.
Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Decker,
Aye.
Director Slater Carter,
Aye.
Director Harvey,
No.
Director Loman.
No.
Okay, so does it pass?
Yes.
Okay, it passes, so that takes care of that. We don't need to do the other step. So we can go on to the next item on the agenda, which is review and possible action concerning cancellation of next regular scheduled meeting, February 20th, 2020.
Thanks, Jim. So we're not going to be able to hold the regular scheduled meeting on February 20. So this is really just an announcement that nobody will be here. And the next regular scheduled meeting is planned for March 5.
Okay, March 5. All right, great. So any other comments on that? That's fine. We're going to go on to reports. Sewer Authority Mid-Coast Side meetings. Catherine will not be at the Monday meeting. Peter will be taking her place, along with Rick. So Rick, you want to give a report?
No reports have been reading since the last meeting. That's fine.
Okay. Going on to Mid-Coast Community Council meeting. Catherine?
Nothing to report.
CSDA report, Rick.
Again, no meeting, it was canceled 2 days ago.
Okay, LAFCO report, and that's again Rick.
That was, I made one last meeting.
Great. Attorney's report, Christine.
No report, thank
No
you,
report,
President.
okay. Director's report, any directors have a report? Okay, general manager's report, Clemens.
Nothing?
Okay, Clemens's report can be found in the agenda. Okay, any future agenda items? Okay, we're going to take an intermission and come back and convene in closed session. Thank you, everyone.